Now, and hang up over there. All right, tap that.
All right. All right, so shalom, Israel. Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shabrakatah. How y'all? All right, so
mute the phone.
Whoa.
Hold on. No, yeah, no, your phone is good.
Go ahead.
Where's that?
Yo, mute your phones. That sounds like a bird. Are you live?
Yeah, you're live. Yeah.
You can't be coming late out if you're gonna do something, because technical difficulties be lurking. Are you live on the StreamYard? Okay, shalom everybody. See behind the scenes. This is your meeting wall. Can you hear me on the class? Everybody in your class. Anybody gets noisy, you mute them over there. All right? And then you remember how to bring up your PowerPoint, right? All right, take over, brother. One. All right, shalom, Israel. I'm Soldier Yair. I have Soldier Ron with me.
Shalom.
And this lesson is going to be called The Ultimate Curse. Evil Eyes. Also, Brother Sakori on the phone? Mm-hmm. I'm sure you're on the phone. All right, if you can hear me, might need you to read as well.
Teach, let's go.
All right, hold on. I'm trying to go to the next slide. All right, so the name of this class is called The Ultimate Curse, Evil Eyes. And basically, this was a lesson that had been on my mind and it had been on my spirit for a minute, because growing up, I had seen a lot of things that we've been plagued with in our community, and one of them is what you would call black on black crime or black on brown crime. So basically, we're just gonna go into a few things, and we're gonna deal.
All right. Keep it authority, bro.
I'm trying to go to the next screen.
Just tap left or right.
To the corner, remember? You have to activate the slideshow to control it. It has to be in the front. All right,
there you go.
Here we go. All right, so for the mission of this lesson, I picked Colossians 4:6 and 2 Timothy chapter 2, verse 24. All right, and y'all will see why I picked those scriptures in a minute, but in short, the mission of this lesson is to show the transition of unity in the so-called Black, Hispanic, and Native community from the time period of the 1940s through the revolutionary movements of the 60s, while also shedding light on where and how it all went downhill. Through the spirit of the Most High and His Son Yahweh Shah, we will be showing the physical manifestation of Deuteronomy 28:54-56, the ultimate curse, and how the ops have marketed our sins and abomination to further our oppression, as it is written in Zechariah 1:15. Right. So let's get a little bit of backstory and problem. Hold on, Salaka. Could you bring that up?
Con.
It's the book of Colossians chapter 4 and verse 6. Let your speech be always with grace, seasoned with salt, that ye may know how ye ought to answer every man.
So the reason that I chose that scripture is because when dealing with Israel, you know, you're dealing with a stiff-necked, hard-headed people, and you also have to know how to reach Israel in order to teach Israel. So the things that we're going to go into, this is going to be some of the things that you can actually use to reach the next brother, because some of our people so far are gone, and we have to literally meet them where they're at. And could you read that next scripture, 2 Timothy 2:24?
Con. This is the book of 2 Timothy chapter 2 verse 24. And the servant of the Lord must not strive, but be gentle unto all men, apt to teach, patient.
So one, we have to be patient with our people, because again, we're dealing with some stiff-necked, hard-headed Negroes.
Right.
And you also have to be able to meet people where they're at. Like some of our people are in gangs, some of our people are and they just out there in the streets, and they want to do everything and be like everybody that they hear in the music. So we're gonna touch on that, but let's get some backstory and problem on this lesson. So, fleeing racism and oppression in the South, many so-called blacks, Latinos, and natives fled out west to California, to the North and Midwest. Now, there was a train called the Argonaut that carried so-called blacks and natives in the 40s out west, that stopped in every city between Louisiana and California. All right, so could you read Lamentations 4 and 17 for me?
Con, this is the book of Lamentations chapter 4 verse 17. As for us, our eyes as yet failed for our vain help. In our watching, we have watched for a nation that could not save us.
So we were fleeing the South. We fled out west to the North and Midwest, trying to find different jobs and trying to find different economic opportunities. What we didn't realize is that we would still face the same economic oppression no matter where we went. Our foot wouldn't find any rest amongst these nations wherever we went. Could you keep reading down?
Con, verse 18. They hunt our steps, that we cannot go in our streets. Our end is near. Our days are fulfilled, for our end is come. Verse 19. Our persecutors are swifter than the eagles of the heaven. They pursued us upon the mountains. They laid wait for us in the wilderness.
So like I was saying earlier, even though we tried to flee persecution, our people were still being oppressed and extorted by different groups of Edomites, like the Spook Hunters. There was they were kind of like this gang in LA that was like a younger version of the Ku Klux Klan. And they would call us spooks, and they would call themselves the Spook Hunters. And we had the KKK, the Irish, Italian, and Jewish mob. So as you can see in the background, I had the KKK members, and then I have John Gotti in the outfit. Al Capone in the outfit in Chicago, and then there's this Jewish mobster. They call him the Hollywood Playboy. I can't remember his name. But side note, the Spook Hunter symbol was also a black man hanging by a rope. Just to give y'all some history. Now, how Israel reacts. Now, I'm gonna give y'all a little bit of I'm gonna let y'all in on something. This was the spirit, because I didn't even plan to do this like this. You have the Northern Kingdom, or the Latinos, on top, and you have the Southern Kingdom of Judah at the bottom, showing the Black Panthers and the Young Lords. So could you read Zechariah chapter 2 and verse 6 and 7, so we can also get the prophetic context, so we know who we're talking about?
Con, it's the book of Zechariah chapter 2 verse 6. It says, Ho, ho, come forth and flee from the land of the north, saith the Lord. For I have spread you abroad as the four winds of the heaven, saith the Lord.
So it's saying that we're in the land of the north. Now, we know, those of us who have studied, we know that the land of the north is North America. We know that that's definitely talking about that. Could you get verse 7 for me?
God. Deliver thyself, O Zion, that dwelleth with the daughter of Babylon.
Do what?
Deliver thyself, O Zion, that dwelleth with the daughter of Babylon.
Deliver thyself, O Zion, or Israel, that dwelleth with the daughter of Babylon. And we know from reading Psalms 137, verses 7 through 8, that the daughter of Babylon is the nation of Edom, or Esau. So to fight against the oppression that we as a people were facing and wanting to free our necks from the hand of our enemies, we began to rise up and fight back. Examples of this are the Black Panthers, as what you see at the bottom. You have the Young Lords, you had the Rookins or the Black P-Stones or the Moles or the People Nation, as well as the Folks Nation, the Slossons in LA, the Gladiators, the Executives, the Businessmen, the Fishermen. If that ain't spiritual. The Mafia Lanes, the Avalon Boys, and the Hoover Groovers, etc. So all of these different organizations were there to fight against these oppressive forces that we were facing in our community, right? So in the background, you see that I have Jeff Fort and the original Black P-Stones. And then right there in the middle, the old picture that's like right under him, those are some of like the original quote unquote gangster disciples, if you will, or growth and development members, the growth and development founders. In the bottom right corner, you have the original Slossons, and I'm gonna get into them in a little bit too. But if you know, Slauson is the area that is known today as Crenshaw and Slauson, which is famous for the gang known as the Rolling 60s Crips. And then you also have the Businessmen. These are the original brothers in the top right that were fighting against these spook hunters back in the 50s. They came out in 1957. So up here, we will show where it all went wrong. Oh, hold on. Before I get there, can you read Nahum 2:11 and 12 for me?
Con, this is the book of Nahum, chapter 2, verse 11.
Bring it out.
Where is the dwelling of the lions and the feeding place of the young lions, where the lion, even the old lion, walked in the lion's whelp, and none made them afraid? Verse 12. The lion did tear in pieces enough for his whelps, and strangle for his lionesses, and filled his holes with prey, and his dens with raven.
Con. So back during the 50s and 60s, the Panthers, they were setting up things like WIC and coming up with different ways that they could better secure the unity in our community. And they were kind of like our police force, if you will. People back then, well, nowadays, you'll have Eve, if it's a problem in the household, she'll say, well, I'm calling the police on you. Back in the days, they'll say, well, I'm calling the Panthers. So back then we had, hello? Okay, calm. Salakia. Did the call drop? All right. Hold on. Con.
It's hanging up.
Now he's trying to get back into this, to his PowerPoint.
What happened?
They kind of knocked him off.
Oh, from that thump. Oh, from that thing.
Yeah, for the call.
You bring that to the front.
I'm gonna do the thing, move it into the corner.
Take your time. Slow down.
Okay.
Go to the extra corner.
There we go.
Second Israel, we managing with some technical difficulties.
Yeah, tell them to hang on for a second.
Con. All right, I'm back. Y'all can see? Can y'all still see?
Yeah, okay, that's it.
Con.
You know I can't buy it till it's
If you can see in the chat, drop a 1. All right, con. We good. All right. So basically, back during this day, we really didn't have to worry about so much oppression in our neighborhoods because the Black Panthers, the Young Lords, all these different groups will fight for us. Now it's also this got to be the spirit because I've also seen pictures of the Young Lords and they still have staffs in their hands. These brothers militant, they have beards on their face and everything. And I can also remember, I'll get off on that. So we're gonna get into where it all went wrong.
Bring it out.
Right. So in the top left, I have J. Edgar Hoover. In the middle, I have Bunchy Carter and John Huggins, and on the right, I have Robert Karinga. So Could you read Psalm 64 and 6?
Con. This is the book of Psalms, chapter 64, verse 6.
Bring it out.
They search out iniquities. They accomplish a diligent search. Both the inward thought of every one of them and the heart is deep.
Con. So that's showing you like our enemies will go to any length they can to knock us off of our pivot.
That's right.
To make sure that they can throw us off and make us fall out of the good graces of the Most High, because they know if they can cause us to sin or be at each other's necks, then the Most High won't fight with us.
That's right.
So could you pull Psalms 80 and 6 for me as well? Baba Kashar.
Con. This is the book of Psalms, chapter 80, verse 6. Thou makest us as a strife unto our neighbors, and our enemies laugh among themselves.
Con. So at the top, we see we had the counterintelligence program, or what was known as COINTELPRO. And the primary purpose of COINTELPRO was to prevent the rise of a black messiah. During the 60s in LA, they put the Black Panthers in the United Slaves Organization, or the US organization, founded by Robert Karenga, who was also the originator of the Pan-Africanist holiday Kwanzaa, by using newspaper comics. Later on, Robert Karenga allegedly worked with the Alphabet Boys to set up Bunchy Carter, a former Slauson who became the leader of the LA chapter of the Black Panther Party at the meeting with Huey P. Newton and Fred Hampton. On January 17, 1969, he and John Huggins were murdered on UCLA campus during a Black History seminar. And that was really the only way they could get them. They had been trying to set them up for a minute. The initial plan to set them up was to try to make it look like a drug deal going wrong. And they couldn't succeed with that because Bunchy was smarter than that. So they had to, even the way that he died at UCLA, when he realized that it was a setup, he tried to escape and he tried to jump through the chairs, and somebody shot and the bullet splattered through the chairs and hit his heart, hit his chest instantly, and he died on impact. Now, could you also pull Lamentations 2 and 16 for Bunchy Carter?
Which one is he in the picture on the left, right there in the middle?
Yes.
Is that further pictures of him on the right hand side?
No, on the right hand side, that's Robert Karenga, the founder of the United Slaves Organization, as well as the holiday Kwanzaa. That's who founded Kwanzaa.
Okay.
Yeah. He allegedly was a CIA operative as well, or FBI operative.
And they got a movie coming out about that. A movie coming out about the whole Black Panther Party. And the plot of the movie is the one dude who was the agent inside for COINTELPRO. That's the plot of the movie. But go ahead.
All right. So now, what was so important about Bunchy? Because of the effect Bunchy Carter being nicknamed the mayor of the ghetto had on the community, because of his street-like mannerisms, charisma, and political and militant mindset, he was able to captivate the minds of the people and organize them, adding 50 to 100 members weekly. All of the Slausons in that day ended up joining the Panthers because of Bunchy. Now, if the government knew back then that the ghetto was the dwelling place of the actual Jews and he was called the mayor of the ghetto, of course they would have looked at him like he was a black messiah and have sought to have had him shot or killed or silenced or neutralized, as they like to call it. All right, so now we have the manifestation of the ultimate curse, part 1. So could you bring out Deuteronomy 28:54 for me?
Is it 54? Okay, come. It's the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28, verse 54. So that the man that is tender among you and very delicate, his eye shall be evil towards his brother, and towards the wife of his bosom, and towards the remnant of his child, which he shall leave.
So originally we said it wasn't like that, but back then in the early 60s, you had a brother by the name of David Barstow, who was the leader of the Black Disciples. And you had Larry Hoover, who was the leader of the Supreme Gangsters, who was also close with Jeff Fort and had a known affiliation with the Black Peace Stones, the L. Rookins at the time. They met across from Kennedy King College in Chicago to form the Folks Nation, which includes a laundry list of different gangs, which also includes some Hispanic factions for you Northern Kingdom haters, such as the Latin or Maniac Latin Disciples, the Spanish Disciples, And even on the people side, you also had like the Latin kings and the Spanish lords, along with the vice lords and the Black Peace Stones. So either way, and that's just Chicago. We hadn't even gotten to LA yet. We're gonna get to that in a minute.
So lucky too on that. The place they met at, there was actually a Masonic lodge. People always glance over that, but when they had that meeting, it was a Masonic lodge they met in.
Bring that out.
That's a fact. And you know, Masons, they funny. You can't just use a Masonic temple and you're not a Mason.
Right.
Just for the record.
Teach. Teach.
All right, now in 1969, you had three brothers by the name of Raymond Washington, Jamel Sampson Barnes, and Stanley Tippett Williams, who founded the Community Revolutionary Inter-Party Services, or what is known as the Crips, with the same intention as the prior organizations like the Panthers and the Young Lords, to fight out the white supremacy in our neighborhoods. Raymond became the head over the East Coast Crips, Tookie became the head over the West Side Crips, and Jamel became the head over the Avalon Boys, which are now the Avalon Gangster Crips. Now having taken back the community from Esau and having fought them off because they got scared and they all started flying. Like they dipped. They left. As soon as they saw how powerful we were getting, when we were starting to get roused up, and now having taken back the community from Esau, they bullied other neighborhoods. And in 1972, their most famous opposition, the Bloods, formed after a brother was killed over a leather jacket. Sounds like a brother getting killed over some J's today. And that's why I got Ecclesiastes 1:9, because there's no new thing under the sun at all. Yeah, so could you bring out that Proverbs 6:12 for me? And somebody on the call, can you pull Isaiah 64:6? Or if Sakori's on the call, brother, can you pull Isaiah 64:6?
That Proverbs verse?
Mm-hmm. Hold on, before you do that. Oh, well, yeah, no, you can go ahead and do that while you grabbing that.
This is the book of Proverbs, chapter 6, verse 12. A naughty person, a wicked man, walketh with a forward mouth, with a froward mouth. Salakia.
All right. So a naughty man walking with a forward mouth. So keep going.
He winketh with his eyes. He speaketh with his feet. He teacheth with his fingers.
All right. So that forward mouth. So that's basically talking about how Crips can identify themselves. You know, they have their calls of you're Crip, y'all know what they do. They go Crip, or they Bloods, they'll go Swoop or Vice or whatever it may be. And then verse 13 is talking about the gang signs and the different dances that you have. So like back in and all of that, actually, if I'm not mistaken, started in the 70s and 80s. So the Crips began organizing and forming different ways to identify themselves. And you can see all the different signs here on the left. And after a petty argument, though, in 1973, 19-year-old Curtis Budamaro, who was one of Tukie's closest friends and he was a high-ranking enforcer, was shot after a petty argument. So Crips began wearing the blue bandanas in his memory. Now, in 1979, Raymond Washington was allegedly killed by the 107 Hoovers. And the gang war started between the 8-Tray Gangster Crips and the Rolling 60 Crips after a guy who had just started claiming the 8 Trays 2 days before and wanted to be so down for the hood. He killed a Rolling 60s Crip named Tyrone, who was the younger brother of an OG named Big Rick. Now, right, so they ended up going to look for the dude to because they just wanted to shoot it because it was never supposed to get to this. These were homeboys at the time, and it was really just supposed to be a fight. They were supposed to fight and squash it. And the dude that had just been in the hood for only 2 days, but he was so thirsty to prove himself, he ended up making a rash decision, which has carried on 40 plus years later.
Mm-hmm.
So that just goes to show you pride can have ramifications years down the line as well. But they were looking for the dude that had shot the OG's younger brother, and they really didn't know the dude because he really wasn't even from around there like that. He had just started claiming the hood. So because they took it as a sign of they just weren't giving him up, and that's where the war actually started. Now, the thing about gangbanging, can somebody who's got that Isaiah 64:6? The water. Adam, could you bring that up?
Isaiah 61 verse 6. But we are all as an unclean thing, and all our righteousness are as filthy rags.
Our righteous. Oh, Salaki. Go ahead. Go ahead.
And we all do stay as a leaf, and our iniquity, like the wind, have taken us away.
So when you look at where it says our righteousness becoming as filthy rags, their righteousness literally became as filthy rags, because now everything is either about the set, it's about this rag, and it's about this hood. So that's how brothers even started identifying themselves. Now, you know a Hoover when you see a Hoover because of the color of his flag, or a Crip because of the color of his flag, or Blood, or Grape, or somebody that's from Grape Street, or wherever, or Latin King, or whoever, because of the color of their flag. And it's also as a result of Isaiah 65:15, where the Most High said that he would slay his servants to call us by another name. So when we first got off the ship, we were just being called colored or black. So now we don't have a problem identifying with blue or orange or red, black, purple, and every other color of the damn crown box.
That's right. You can't wear nothing.
Like,
That's right.
You can wear clear.
Can't wear that.
all right. So now this part is called the furtherance of our oppression and the marketing of our misfortunes. All right. So the scriptures that I have for that are Zechariah 1:15 and Deuteronomy 33:7.
It's the book of Zechariah, chapter 1 and verse 15.
Bring it out.
And I am very sore displeased with the heathen that are at ease, for I was but a little displeased, and they helped forward the affliction.
So from 1970 to about 1991, approximately 10,000 so-called blacks and Latinos were murdered due to gang violence in LA.
How many of you?
About 10,000. So 10,000 soldiers, because I don't see these brothers as gang members. I see 10,000 kings, 10,000 soldiers that were lost. In Chicago, from 1957 till January of 2020, I didn't even count this year, there have been over 40,000 gang-related murders with an average of 700 murders, 27 of the 63 years. That's over a third. Less than 500 murders, 20 of the 63 years, and the remaining 16 years with an average between the 500 and 700. Since the night, all right, now here goes them forwarding our affliction as well. Since the 70s and 80s, there have been countless reports of crates of already assembled military-grade assault rifles and machine guns left in abandoned trucks, vans, and even on some open train cars in both LA and Chicago. And I'm positive it's not just in LA and Chicago, because I'm from Savannah, and I know that brothers like going to hit the train cars in Savannah, because all you're gonna find on there is weapons and electronics. You're gonna find game systems, beats, all of that.
Hey, Salakia. Question. Why would a train just so happen to stop in that part of town, knowing it has weapons?
And I can confirm that, because I'm from Chicago, and we've seen that growing up. So we've definitely seen the trains. You go in the alley, it'd be a random crate of semi-automatic weapons in there for everybody to take. I could definitely vouch for that.
The water. All right, so the Alphabet Boys were also responsible for smuggling cocaine into the Americas from Nicaragua and other parts of Central and South America, because they were trying to find, they got rejected by Congress for fighting the war in Central America against a group called the Contras. They were like a cartel, guerrilla warfare based type group at the time. And the government, and Congress wasn't allowing them, they weren't going to fund the war for them to go down there and do it. So what they did was they smuggled drugs into our hoods and gave them to brothers like Freeway Wiki Ross, who's his brother, who's the bald head, Jake right here. And they pushed it further in. He was one of the first ones to push crack or freebase, or what they call Ready Rock, into our communities across the country, while also enacting the war on drugs leading to mass incarceration.
Isn't that
Now-
Ross?
Yes, that's the original. That's the one that the rapper got his name from. Yes. So, a lot of people don't know that this is also how gangs spread, because some of his bodyguards and some of his shooters were actually members of the Hoovers, because he was from the 8 trades, if I'm not mistaken. Now, or he grew up in the 80s, the 80 streets, the strip of the 80 streets, if you in that part of town. But he wasn't the only one that did it. He's just one of the more notable ones. Now, I also was just talking about the Latino gangs as well, because we tend to be so carnal and we only tend to look at us as having gone through these curses, when especially Deuteronomy 28 and 54, but we tend to neglect when it comes to looking at the Latinos. So I also want to show the Norteños and Sureños, because the same way we have Crips and Bloods, we got a red and blue gang, they have a red and blue gang. Literally, we have gangs that's with the so-called, not so-called, with the quote-unquote folks and people nation. They have gangs that are with the quote-unquote folks and people nation. So I don't understand how you can still be carnal and say that these are not our brothers and we do all the same stuff. Literally. We'll even have, side note, we'll even have a cookout. They'll have a fiesta. We'll have Bud Light and Coors Light and everything. They'll have Corona and Modelo. You telling me we not the same people?
Bring that out.
Can I get Deuteronomy 33 and 7 as well?
God, it's the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 33, verse 7. And this is the blessing of Judah. And he said, hear, Lord, the voice of Judah, and bring him unto his people, and let his hands be sufficient for him, and be thou an help to him from his enemies.
So from the 1970s up until the mid-1980s, hip-hop was more of a conscious art of musical expression that was raising the vibration of our people, because of brothers like KRS-One rapping about us being the true Israelites in the song Why Is That? That's KRS-One in the middle, for those of y'all that don't know, or that might not be hip-hop historians. Because of this, the genre of gangster rap was created with groups like NWA, who had Compton Crips, who also had gang members like Compton Crips members, Eazy-E and MC Ren, as well as the West Side Connection, which was comprised of both Crips and Bloods to popularize gang culture in our community. And while at first NWA was also rapping about fighting against the police, in 1989 when Ice Cube left the group, that was it. Jerry Heller, the kike, the Amalekite, he got in their head, and yeah, it went down.
Salaki, check this out. Whatever it did happen to all the rest of this conscious rap. You got to think about the Israel, because you know who run the music industry, right? So why all of a sudden gangster rap come in the scene and took over everything, and they come all the way up here to now you and mumble rap when don't even talk about nothing, but everybody's out there showing their breast, showing their ass. You mumbling about guns and drugs and alcohol and venti belts and stuff. Where is any edification or any other power struggle from what we've been through to now? What happened? Ask yourself that.
All right, fine. So now for my age group, because I can really only go back so much and just look at NWA, because I'm a 90s baby. So when all of this was happening, I'm still a thought at this point. In 2011 and 2012, Chief Keef and Lil Durk, they did the same thing with these brothers in the 300 and 600 BDs from Parkway Gardens, commonly known as O Block. And they were marketed the same way that NWA was marketed all those years before. Now, drill music, really, if you want to be honest, drill music and trap music kind of became the new gangster rap. And there's no new thing under the sun, once again. And all of this stuff got put mainstream and pushed in our face constantly until we was just like, you know what? That is kind of cool. And really it wasn't. They kept pushing it in our face. Another way that they did it, black exploitation films.
Yep, that's right.
Boys in the Hood. One of my, I'm not gonna lie to y'all.
Nah, bro.
These are some of my favorite movies. These are like some classic movies. I can't lie to y'all. Like if these movies come on, I might still watch them just because, like, yeah. I grew up on these movies. So you have examples like Colors, which was a Crip blood and Mexican movie. You had Boys in the Hood, which was a neighborhood versus an Inglewood blood movie. The Dudes in the Red car. That's why when Ice Cube and them got pulled over by the cop, he was like, "Which you one of them Crenshaw Mafias? Nah, you look more like one of them rolling 60s." And then you had Minister Society, which took place in Jordan Downs, which is the land of the grapes, that's Grape Street. And you had First Time Felon, which was still, it's on both sides. They pushed the GDs and the Vice Lords, like they tried to make it popular. South Central.
Yeah, I remember that.
All right, so South Central, you had the one.
The logic.
Con.
Superfly. You check it out when you back it in.
Con. I'm glad you brought that up too, because that was also when you stopped seeing brothers looking so revolutionary with the afros and they started perming their hair. The water for that. You even had the movie Original Gangsters. It was. I'm not sure if those games were real, but it was a similar spirit. Now on that movie, you had two brothers that had formed the gang earlier, and one of their sons was a basketball player, and he ended up getting killed by the gang that he had started that his father had started a couple years earlier. So they had went back, they gang up with the neighborhood, and they ended up fighting off the gang. Long story short. All right, so now Baby Boy, one of my this is a classic here too. I grew up on this movie as well. Now
BET played every day.
What?
Baby Boy's a classic for y'all, man? Really?
It's not a classic
Listen.
film.
Yeah, it's not a classic.
It's not a classic.
Really?
But
It's a black movie.
it's
hella black.
it's a black movie and BET owns it. They play it every day.
Listen, it's almost 20 years old. It's a classic. All right. All right.
Brother born in the 90s.
But no, all right. So, but even I could never understand as a child growing up, like why Jody just hated Melvin or why he couldn't understand. I just could not get it. But then come to find out, after I found out and finally understood, he was a Rolling 40s Crip. He was a Rolling 40s neighborhood Crip, and Melvin was from the Hoovers. And that was really the reason why he had so much animosity towards him, because if you know the history, you know that those are mortal enemies. Well, I'm not going to say mortal enemies because Esau is our mortal enemies.
That's right.
They're rivals. I'll say that. So now we have the next part of it. So now after seeing all these movies, hearing all this music, it's popularized, right? So now you still have so many of our people caught up in these gangs and all this stuff. We only got a couple more slides. I ain't finna hold y'all all night. Just bear with me. All right. So we got wicked. So we got Isaiah 42 and 22. Could you read that for me?
God. It's the book of Isaiah, chapter 42 and verse 22. But this is a people robbed and spoiled. They are all of them snared in holes, and they are hid in prison houses. They are for a prey, and none delivereth for a spoil, and none saith restore.
So when you look at that scripture, that's talking about mass incarceration and all the traps that they try to set for us to get us locked up, such as planting drugs on us, such as stopping us really for nothing, just to harass us and bring us up on a random obstruction of justice charge or insubordination charge, just so they can meet their quota. And just so we had to pay extra fines when we really not even citizens. If you want to be real, we really what are called denizens. If y'all don't know, a denizen is a foreigner with adopted rights in a certain country. And if the prison population or prison is the new slavery, then America has to be the new slave plantation, because the USA holds 20%. The USA holds 20% of the entire world's prison population. Over 60% of the prison population are so-called Black and Latino men. Some Latinos are classified as Edomites. When being booked and in certain prisons, all of the so-called Black people are grouped together while the Latinos and so-called white people are grouped together, so they will already be conditioned to look at us as anything other than their brothers. So now even when they look down, so even when they look at us now, they're like, this negrito.
Con. Every time.
Look at this vato.
Hey, baby
So-
cholo. Yeah, I don't know nothing about that baby cholo.
Add one Iker out there.
Hate your brother, right? Conditioned to hate your
Con.
brother.
But it also says through the penal system is where many of our brothers also fell into strongholds like gang banging or Islam, because some of our brothers, quite frankly, they be scared, or they might feel like they don't have any family on the outside or anybody looking out for them, so they do what they can to survive. Now you also have Islam, because brothers don't want to necessarily take the gang banging route. They don't want to necessarily have to check in with somebody when they come out on that kind of level. They still want to find their spirituality at the same time. They're just not gonna come to the Bible for whatever reason. In the 1980s, you also had the war on drugs enacted by Ronald Reagan, and in the 1990s, you had the 3 strikes rule. It's like you had the 3 strikes rule enacted by Bill Clinton, giving life sentences to 3-peat offenders, many of which were nonviolent crimes. Now, a lot of those were violent crimes, but a lot of those were nonviolent crimes.
And so like the running president now is the one who it was Biden. You said Clinton.
Biden
was the one who
came up with the
3
crime
strikes.
bill.
Yeah, the crime bill.
The crime bill.
So yeah, that he off. Y'all better not even try to vote and vote for him.
They want you to trick into voting for him, but he's the one that came up with the crime bill to lock up all our people. And use wisdom.
That's right. Even the scriptures say, Deuteronomy 17 and 15 tell you you're not even supposed to vote for somebody unless you should not even set a king over you that's not even your people.
That's right.
Period. So, yeah. All right, so now we're going to look at the effect that this had on Eve and the children. Could you get Deuteronomy 28 and 56 for me? Baba Kushai.
Con. It's the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28, verse 56. The tender and delicate woman among you, which would not venture to set sole of her feet upon the ground for delicateness and tenderness, her eyes shall be evil towards the husband of her bosom, and toward her son, and toward her daughter.
So even during the gang banging era, from its inception even until today, you done had some of Eve shooting, stabbing, killing, robbing for the gangs just like men, and even setting up rival gang members. Because of mass incarceration, the crack era, and government assistance, Eve begins to see no need for a man in the home except for pleasure or perk. We're not gonna get into the perks. All right, so now let's look at the effect that this has on the children. Hold on, no. Let's get the example. Single Eve with the son and a daughter has a lot of male friends that she brings around her kids because of her wants. Right. Her daughter sees it and grows up thinking that there's nothing wrong with it because that's what she's seen. That's what she's seen her mother do all this time, and she also doesn't see the need for the real affection. She doesn't see the need for real affection coming from a man. She also won't see the reason for there to be a man in the household because she's never actually seen a man in the household fulfilling his role, doing what he's supposed to do. On the flip side, the son is now looking at all women like they're hoes. They're tricky or they're not worth his commitment because he's never seen a real man set the example and take care of the household as a man and be the provider and spiritual, financial, and physical ground layer for the family. He is now effeminate and lacks emotional balance, but is physically strong. Now, the reason I picked these pictures is because you see this is the black family in the 60s. This is us during the civil rights movement. You see the mom, you see the father, you see the 2 children. This in the bottom right corner, this is a lot of our sisters today. Even when you look at statistics, our women, we have the most single parent households in our community, especially single mothers. So you can't tell me that that's not a coincidence. Men lie, women lie. Numbers ain't gonna lie to you. Neither is the Bible.
That's right.
Now, if y'all seen Beyond Scared Straight, y'all seen the episode I'm talking about, y'all know why I picked this brother. This brother had so much energy. He had the heart of a lion and was not scared to fight anybody, but you could say the smallest thing to him or just talk a little bit of trash to him, and you instantly up under his skin. And that's Jake. A lot of us, we got to stop letting folks get so up under our skin for the littlest thing. I've been guilty of it, so I can speak on it. I can look at myself and say, yeah, I done that. I probably shouldn't have acted like that. But I know I'm not the only one that's going through it.
That's right.
All right, so how do we fix this problem in our community? Would you pull Job 8:8 for me? Can somebody grab me Jeremiah 6:16? Can somebody else grab Sirach 6:13? And one more person grab Romans 12:10. This is the last slide, y'all. We're gonna wrap this thing up.
So Job 8:8.
Hey, Salakia.
Fine.
Hey, this guy Quab, I got a little excerpt for you too. What you was going over about how we raise how the single woman raises the male and female in opposite roles.
Bring it out.
This is the Willie Lynch letter, right? I was going over this a couple days ago, right? I'm gonna just read it real quick. The Willie Lynch letter, page 18. The title of this page is called "The Breaking Process of the African or Israelite Woman," is what it's really trying to say. It says, in this frozen psychological state of independence, she will raise her male and female offspring in reverse roles. That's exactly what you're talking about, huh? That's exactly what's going on right now. The women, due to the Willie Lynch going on for years and years in the post-traumatic slave syndrome, has our women raising our young women and young men in reverse roles. It further goes on to say, and I'll be quick, for the fear of the young male's life, she will physiologically train him to be mentally weak and dependent, but physically strong. Exactly what you said, because she has psychologically independent. She will train her female offspring to be psychologically independent. What have you got? And this is how they answer it. What have you got? You've gotten the nigger woman out front and the nigger man behind and scared. That's exactly what's going on today, man.
That's right.
Uh-huh. The water. Hey, the water for that, Adawan. Yeah. All right, so now, with all of that, with everything that we just brought out, everything that y'all heard, how do we fix this problem in our community? Can you read Job 8:8 for me?
This is the book of Job, chapter 8, verse 8.
Bring it out.
For inquire, I pray thee, of the former age, and prepare thyself to the search of their fathers.
So the reason that I said that is because we've forgotten where we come from as a people, so we really don't know where we're going. We really don't know where we're going. And that's the thing that you have to have. How do you know where you're going if you don't know where you come from? Part of us, because I'll tell you how it worked for me, and y'all correct me if it was a little different for y'all. When I first found out we're Israelites, I said, all right, so we're supposed to be God's chosen people, because I knew Israelites were God's chosen people. I said, how are we in this predicament? How do we get in this predicament? So then when you find out that you're an Israelite and you find out that you're in this predicament, but you're supposed to be God's chosen people, naturally you want to go back and find out, all right, so how did we get here? And then when you read the curses, you say, oh, okay, so that's what we did wrong. So now if we know where we went wrong, if we know where we came from, and we know where we messed up at, then we can also correct the problem and move forward from it.
That's right.
All right, Khan, can somebody, if you got Jeremiah 6:16, could you bring it out for me?
It's the book of Jeremiah, chapter 6 and verse 16. Thus saith Yahweh, stand ye in the ways and see and ask for the old paths. Where is the good way, and walk therein, and ye shall find rest for your souls. But they said, we will not walk therein.
So with Jeremiah 6:16, when we find the old path and we start to walk in that old path, we won't even size each other up. We won't even size each other up when we walk down the street. We'll be happy. We'll be happy when we see another Israelite.
Right.
We won't want to rob, steal, and kill from each other. We won't be so envious of what the next brother has. We'll be happy that that brother has it. And you know what? And you know what? Instead of being envious, I'll say, you know what? If the Lord bless me with that, all praises.
That's right.
But we won't hate on the next brother and be envious and say, you know what? I like that. And you know what? That look good on him. That'll look way better on me. I'm going to take it. Also, when we begin to walk in the old path, we'll begin to love our own. We'll begin to love our brothers and sisters again. We won't. We'll begin to love the opposite sex again. We won't want to be bull daggers and engage in all kinds of faggotry, as LEL put it the other night.
Right.
Also, can somebody pull Sirach 6 and 13?
It's all right.
Sirach 6, that's verse 13. Separate thyself from thy enemies and take heed of thy friends.
Khan. So that's kind of like Zephaniah 2:1, where it tells us to gather together as that nation not desired, because we're in the hands of our enemies. So we need to separate from the other nations, cleave unto the Most High Yahweh Shai in these 12 tribes. And Romans 12 and 10, that'll be the last one. Aside from the creed, and then I'll open the floor for questions if anybody has any, or if any brothers have any other precepts they want to bring up.
Romans 12, verse 10. Be kindly affectionate one to another with brotherly love and honor, preferring one another.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Khan. So when we begin to, one of the things that we have to do to fix this problem in our community is we have to turn towards each other and prefer each other first over everybody else. Go to your brother first. You don't have to always go to Esau. It's a famous rapper that was killed earlier this week. And when you look at some of his videos, one of the things that he does is he shout out this white boy because he say he raw. He a white boy. He's supposed to be raw. Like, and in reality, we know they learned everything from us.
Come on.
So that's a part of not knowing who you are, because when you know who you are, you'll prefer your own people. You'll hype your own people up before you'll hype other nations up. So with that, I'm Soji Yair. It is our heart's prayer and desire that all Israel should be saved. I thank y'all for listening, and shalom. So if anybody has any questions about the lesson, I want to open the floor for questions.
Good job, King.
Wow.
That's it.
That was good.
No questions?
No questions?
Any questions?
What about questions in general?
Any questions in general?
Everybody satisfied with that. They better start watching some movies, huh?
And that's the bibliography as well.
Boys in the
Yeah.
All right, so if there's no questions, if no concerns and questions, we're gonna go ahead and end the class. But we want to make time for anybody that has any questions. I get a lot of questions in the email. Is there anybody that has questions right now? The water sister KG.
The water sister KG.
The water, everybody who donate.
Brother, how you get in After Effects? I know.
All right, y'all. If there's no questions, we're gonna go ahead and close out the class. If you want to join the prayer with us and be a part of the prayer, feel free to call into the class. I see people calling in. Did you close the live?
Not yet. That's what I was trying to do.
All right. Hold on 1 second. Just got to pull up the stream. So Israel, the water for listening. This brother's a new soldier. This is his first time teaching a class. This is what we're trying to do at Sons of Thunder. We're trying to bring brothers in and teach them the Bible so that they can be competent to instruct others. And this is a very interesting lesson. The brother put together a great presentation with the PowerPoint, the visuals make things stronger. And that's what we want from the brothers that want to join our camp. We know that people have been sending emails trying to join, and we've been delaying you. It's because we've been working on these brothers. You can come in the camera. We've been working on these brothers to try to get them prepared. It's multiple new brothers, some unseen here. We've been trying to get them prepared and give them more attention than just Russian brothers to put on the shirt. So If you want to join the camp, please send the email to Sons of Thunder Israelites@gmail.com. We have camp tomorrow, Lord willing, at 3 p.m. Woodruff Park. All right. Feast of Tabernacles coming up. September 30th, 7 days. Okay. Feast of Booths. We're working on getting to school. And right now we're trying to use the YouTube and our classroom atmosphere to put the school environment out there as best we can. All right. So thank you for your attention. And y'all have a blessed night. Shalom.
Shalom.
Shalom, shalom.
Shalom. And Feast of Trumpets. The Day of Atonement, Feast of Trumpets. But I wanted to mention the Feast of Tabernacles in case people want to make plans and they want to join us out there. And to do any of these things, all you have to do is send an email. All right? All right? Yahweh Shem Yahshua Barakatham. Shalom.
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 Esau, you can't get away.
And Esau will never.
Never to America.
And we never liked you.